Montreal Canadiens are proud to select Ivan Demidov.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Curfew Boys podcast. Myself, Sammy, with two of my boys, Zook and my cousin, Chris. Hey now, gentlemen.
Hey.
How's it going? How are you guys doing?
Not so bad today.
Zook had a bit of a day. He told me behind the scenes, quite a bit of a day. That's what happens when you're a homeowner or a landlord.
I'm not gonna expand on this.
Pay your rent, folks.
Because I don't want to incriminate myself any further.
No.
I'm kidding.
No, we won't go into details. Chris, how you doing?
Good. Fighting off a little bit of a cold, if you can believe it or not, but it's been basically a 3-week push of insane work. My sales team doubled, and we're talking about I have nearly 50 sales reps, just about 50 sales reps who are working under me now. So it's just been madness, and my body's going into shutdown mode. So just happy to be here and happy to talk some hockey with the boys.
Absolutely.
But
probably what's
might be sniffling here and there over the course of the podcast.
I'm with you with this. We're all sick here at this household, so
just don't breathe like Darth Vader in your mic. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. That's why there's a distance between my mic.
My vacation ends tonight. I go back to work tomorrow morning. So after a 3-week vacation, it feels weird to go.
What time, you bum? I'm kidding.
It's weird. I feel like a bum, but I'm getting paid to stay home for 3 weeks, despite personal circumstances that have happened lately. But I know it just feels weird. But yeah, I did kind of feel like a bum, but
you deserve it, Sammy. Come on.
Thank you, gentlemen. Very excited for this episode because joining us is actually a very loyal follower and supporter of the podcast and our Instagram page for sure. Big time Habs fan, and we were trying to get this done for a while now, with different scheduling conflicts. It was a bit difficult to get done, but finally he's going to be joining us, Mr. Dan Kozel. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, boys. Thanks so much for having me on, Zook, Sal, and Chris. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I've been a diehard fan since the day I was in my mother's womb. So happy to be here.
That's beautiful. We could tell by your hoodie that you're wearing too.
That's a nice hoodie for real.
Yeah, it's a cozy hoodie.
What a time that was, eh? Jeez. So it's funny. Dan, earlier today, you sent me a picture of yourself holding. It looked like the Reebok goalie stick that I don't know if it belonged to Carey Price or something, but if you want to.
Yeah. So funny enough, there was a colleague of mine in university was doing a journalism paper, and he got hired by the Gazette, and he was trying to find the craziest super fans that he knew, and he reached out to me. And he's like, "Can we do an article on you?" And I said, "Sure, absolutely." I was a goalie growing up. And then at some point, every kid playing hockey, you think you're going to make the show, you're going to make the NHL, you're going to get drafted. That wasn't the case for me. I mean, being 5'6" and a goaltender, that doesn't really help your odds, right? But I battled through it, played some high level hockey, as high as, AA hockey, played some hockey out in Russia. We got absolutely, we got absolutely obliterated there. We could talk about that briefly, but I was obsessed. I'm going to come out and say this. I was obsessed with Carey Price, just the way he moved, the way he played. I wanted to replicate that style. The guy was he's 6'3", I'm 5'6", so let me figure out how to do that. So I ended up just buying a bunch of his pro stock, goalie gear and goalie twigs, as they call it. Got custom made pads for prep school and stuff like that, and that article was, I think, in 2018, and it just went back to the fact that, hey, how did you become a fan? Well, my grandfather was really the one that instilled it in me. It was just, go to his place every Saturday, Sunday for dinner. He was from the Ukraine, actually, so I have a Russian-Ukrainian background.
Okay.
And he would always watch the hockey games, and I'd be like, well, what is this? I was 2 years old. I didn't know at the time, but it kind of just grows on you. He just told me, just remember, they won 24 Stanley Cups. This is your home city now. So the rest is kind of history. You grow up, you play hockey, you think about the Habs, or like playoffs are always an exciting time, as you boys know. So
Yeah.
that was a little written piece in that article for the Gazette.
Okay, interesting. Fuck. Oh man, they came so close to having that 25th banner up at the Bell Center, but and then after that, we all know where the organization went, and thus began the rebuild. Speaking of which, that documentary is out on Crave. I don't know if you boys got a chance to watch it.
I haven't been able to watch it yet because I don't have Crave. I'm one of those guys, Dan. I like to stream things. I don't like to pay for any service. So I'm trying to find a link that works, but I've been unsuccessful. Just up to date.
Zook,
I'm sure there's going to be one out
I'll
soon.
give you my login. I'll give you my login credentials. I literally repurchased Crave just for the sake of watching this. So
Got to be careful with the malware there.
Yeah, you got to click on the ads and off.
Oh my God, no kidding. So with all that rent money you're getting, you can't afford a quick Crave subscription.
I have a young daughter to pay for things, like it's an expensive life, dude.
He's pulling out the
Guess what? That she wants Crave. That's how. It is.
Well, yeah, even that.
Well, I personally enjoyed the first 2 episodes, and it was basically almost everything I expected. I was probably just expecting a little bit more of like the on ice conversations going, kind of a little bit like the way the Road to the Winter Classic HBO did it. They actually were able to get some on ice audio and how the players interacted with each other on the bench or up against their opponents. I thought, or I found that this documentary didn't really have that. But, you do hear Marty dropping the F-bombs a couple of times. And so
I was going to ask you, because that's one of the things that you were wanting before was how is the swearing and things like that. Yeah. And did they censor a lot of the things, or is it like
there's nothing.
Oh, okay,
censored,
cool.
It's pretty raw.
I can't stand that censoring bullshit.
No. There isn't. And like
that's good.
It's very
hockey is that.
Well, that's it. It's authentic and it's emotional too, right? So, like, of course,
Marty's emotional.
Marty's a big time emotional guy too, man. Like, he probably swears a lot more than all of us combined, but he's just passionate about it. But I love too that there was a lot of behind the scenes on the business side of it, on the marketing side of it as well, dealing with Jeff Molson and. Yeah,
I think it's going to allow for more transparency. I think that's what the fans want.
Yeah.
24/7 HBO was pretty epic though. Like the way they were able to capture the whole and it was like on the ice chirping. You hear guys running their mouths. Like that was like the pure rawest form of content for hockey. And I think they need more of that. I find the whole league.
Yeah, I totally agree. And correct me if I'm wrong, but when those series were coming out. For me, I just felt like between those years of like give or take 2013, whenever it was, up until maybe 2017, 18, I really thought those years were some of the best hockey seasons that we watched. And a lot of it had to do with, the promotion that those documentaries did for the NHL and for the league. And the NHL is missing that. You see all these great documentaries now, especially now on Netflix with F1, Full Swing, quarterback, receiver now, like as if those leagues need any more promotion, but it's still working. It still works. So, like, anyways, I know the NHL has a documentary on Prime coming up, but for now, talk about the Canadiens. I personally love these behind the scenes documentary. I mean, Zook, when we used to play music back in the day, like if you gave me a classic DVD of whatever band that you loved recording their album in the studios and how I love that stuff, but also for me,
I almost prefer that instead of the music or instead of the album. I like to know what went behind
the thought process behind
the thought process, or
But watching these documentaries, like the coach, the way Marty interacts with his players or management, all that, I love that stuff.
I think if there was anything that came out of those episodes, I fell even more in love with Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes. Just the reactions, the strings that are being pulled behind the scenes. There was one thing that really disappointed me in all of it. I don't want to say spoiler alert, but it's just something that wasn't included that I was anticipating. They didn't include anything on the fight between Arbor Jacki and Ryan Reeves. Like Arbor Jacki didn't have a moment at all. I was really, really, really expecting,
Yet,
that to be something that was highlighted, maybe some discussion in the room. How was that? How did the boys react to that? That was just one thing that kind of let me down.
It's true. Yeah, I recall that too, and I kind of agree with you on that. I get a feeling that they might do something about Arbor Jacki being sent down to the minors, but then later being recalled up from the minors. I just get a feeling that they might show glimpses of that, but it's gonna be really interesting to see. And our buddy Joey's like, too bad, like there's nothing about Demidov in this year. It's like, yeah, but it's like if they make
we
second
gotta be
season.
patient. We gotta be patient.
I know Joey's not patient at all. I say this with love, but he's not. But anyways, so far I really liked what I saw, and I'm looking forward to every Wednesday now. They're going to be releasing an episode, and that's what these platforms do. They release a couple of episodes at a time, then one at a time. Like even Netflix now, they're starting to do the same thing, releasing like 4 or 5 episodes, and then you wait for the second half of the season to come back. So guys like Zook don't stream and actually have to register on these platforms to watch their shows.
I'm gonna find it, guys. Don't worry. And then I'm gonna post the link.
You don't want a virus on your computer either.
No. Don't be like me. Where
I'll be the tester. Don't worry about it. I'm
Don't
gonna
be
run
like-
it on a few devices.
The LimeWire days.
Yeah, like man.
God,
Oh
those
my
were
God.
classic days,
Dude, I used to download like an album, for example, and then 2 weeks later, my dad would go on the laptop and be like pages opening up like that you can't close. It's like,
Don't download from Napster, or else Lars Ulrich from Metallica.
Oh, yeah.
Again.
the worst nightmare for any like old PC that's lying around. You know what I mean?
dude.
Yeah, don't be like me where I was trying to stream Demidov's game, not this current game. Where, like, don't be like we were like at a bunch of pop-ups and then notifications saying like you got hacked. Like, just don't
From
be
from the Russian servers, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I got. Oh my God, guys, I got the KGB coming after me. There you go.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
No, I'll be all right. But Demidov, hey, everybody was concerned about his ice time. 2 goals, 2 assists, 4.9. He's now a point per game player, and he's, I think, top 15 in the league now, 6 points in 6 games. Everybody was panicking, but
Go get it, kid.
hey, he's getting these points playing third line minutes with Evgeny Kuznetsov, and
And the team doesn't seem to be that great, eh?
listen, I can't really speak on behalf of like the talent level that the team has. I'm just kind of like focusing on what he's doing and how he's performing. But I personally think Evgeny Kuznetsov could be a great mentor for this kid. You know, he's a Stanley Cup champion, played centerman for Alex Ovechkin, like the greatest goal scorer of our generation. So
that definitely won't hurt.
It's just, Habs fans how they are. They tend
We're
to panic
impatient. We're very impatient.
Oh my God, are we ever? Dan, real quick before we get to the main subject, just want to know a bit more about you. Like, what do you do now for work? Do you still play hockey? Do you still play in any of these garage leagues or beer leagues?
Yeah, absolutely. Once a week if I can. There's a lot more traveling nowadays, so it's try to get out. There's nothing quite like a hockey sweat. Still, you're still going to get a good workout in between. I've been doing capital market stuff since 2018. So particularly, raising capital for micro cap, small cap companies, doing some capital raising right now. It's completely different than, being a sports broadcaster. I did have a dream at some point of doing that, but
really?
the Habs do hold a close spot to my heart. So there's no doubt about that, but that's what's keeping me busy right now. And then as soon as the season starts, like it's going to be on my TV while I'm like working or doing some stuff. So it's a good time.
Oh, that's great, man. Good for you. Boys, training camp has officially begun for the Montreal Canadiens. Started a couple of days ago. The classic, the golf charity tournament where everybody comes in and you hear words from management, Kent Hughes, Jeff Gordon, Marty, and then obviously the players like Suzuki, Caulfield, so on and so forth. Marty's on a different mission this year, I feel. I don't know if you guys agree, but to me, he makes me laugh with the Martyisms, I call them now. But when he said something along the lines like my truth might be a little bit different than it was last year. I was like, what truth are you talking about? But I think deep down inside, I know what he's talking about. His truth is, look, you guys played last year, you got experience. Now take it to that next level, boys. Like I don't know if he's going to be a tougher coach or a stricter coach. I think, the no tolerance rule that he has, like, it's still going to be in place, but I think he's just ready to push these guys. And then the mix, are we in the mix this year to make the playoffs, has become really interesting. And it's probably the biggest topic of debate amongst his team as they go into training camp. So I don't know if I still don't know. I still don't know if they're in the mix, but to me, the magic number is 250 goals they got to score and be top 15 on the power play. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this as well.
Well, I like to look at what happened with the Patrick Laine trade. Like, let's start there, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got a second-round pick out of that. That's like Kent Hughes, man. Like, he's doing the right things. He's wheeling and dealing. This is a master negotiator at work. Like, I'll give him that. And no disrespect to Bergevin. Like, he did his time. He was great. We got to the Cup final. Whether people believe it was a fluke or not, that's besides the point. We were there. And I'm going to use a finance analogy here. I think the Habs are a penny stock this year. And the reason I say that is because we have no doubt. I mean, I don't want to say no downside. Like, you could still finish at the bottom, but we're not San Jose. We're not Anaheim. We're not Chicago. Yeah. And I'm going to put the Ottawa Senators under the bus here because they're supposed to be in year 5 or 6 of their rebuild.
Yeah.
And they haven't been able to do anything. They just had to fire their coach. Jacques Martin is back behind the bench. I never thought I'd see that. It seems like it's the coaching carousel in the National Hockey League where, the same coaches are coming back.
Yeah, we gave it to them now. We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, so I feel like we're in a much different spot. I think it's a much better spot. And any upside that comes out of this, if we make the playoffs, like, we're not even supposed to be there, quite frankly. So that's how I'm approaching this season, and it's always exciting. And we have a top 6 core now. We haven't had that in a very long time. And I think the city right now is feeling that. There's a lot of excitement. Hopefully Kirby Dach can stay healthy, because I saw there was an incident today on ran into the boards.
Yeah.
I don't know specifically what happened.
Yeah, he got a bit of either a high stick or an accidental elbow from Struble. They were kind of battling out in the corner, and he accidentally got the elbow, but he went down and he was checking to see, and then Habs fans again panicked. Oh, please God, don't let this happen again. Blah blah blah. It's like, chill. He's gonna be fine.
Yeah, as long as it's an upper body injury, that's fine. Lower body, you'd be a little bit concerned.
Yeah. No, totally agree. And I think a lot of players are on a mission, but I like Chris and Zook. We've discussed this many times. Like, Kirby Dach, this is his season to shine right now because he got robbed of that opportunity last year.
I know. I almost don't like that fact that we were expecting him to have a great season, because pressure, you know what it is with pressure. I don't think it's a good thing in this, but it depends, right? I think he could handle this pressure because he knows that the media here in Montreal is looking at him with a microscope this year. And I think he's one of the players that will be able to handle that sort of pressure. But I just, like, me personally, like, I wouldn't like it. And I hope that he takes it in a good way, and he does start off as he started off last season, because his first 2 games, dude, he was always there. He had, like, I think 4 points in 2 games. Like,
and even throughout the preseason too.
And the preseason, he had a strong he had a strong exhibition and whatnot. But I hope that injury didn't really change anything of his game, like any part of his game. That's what I'm trying to see right now. Like,
we'll see in his skating. We'll see when the games start how his skating looks.
Because knee injuries are quite tough, right? I don't know if any of you has had any knee injuries in the past.
Yep.
But yeah, right. It's
my
like
knees,
they're always there in a sense, but they're not. Yeah. But you always feel it somehow, and that's my fear. He's still young too, Doc. Right? So what? He's 20
years old.
4. Yeah, that's it. Wow.
3 years old. Yeah,
I don't know.
Very, very young team.
Yeah, so Yeah, go for it, Chris.
Oh, no,
No, it's
no,
okay.
no. I cut you off.
No, it's all good. I was just gonna
say.
say, yeah, where he does have a big season this year, Doc, and I'm excited to see how he handles this pressure this year.
Fingers crossed on that, Zook. Man, that would be absolutely huge, and it ties right into what Dan was saying. Like, we officially have two legitimate top lines, and I think they're we know who's who and who's supposed to do what. Slav lost some weight. Apparently, he looked like he was flying. There were a handful of reporters who were making remarks and saying like he is dialed in. He's looking really good out there. But I want to go back to Sammy's original question. I kind of want to draw back into our prospects. Obviously, there was no Jacob Fowler. Dan, I would love to get your opinion on Jacob Fowler in just a little bit, but let's to stay on point. Jacob Fowler wasn't there. Ivan Demidov evidently not there. Mayu, Hutson, I think even Owen Beck, they performed, I'd say, up to what we expected, which was very well. They should have been standing out, and I think they did, in fact, stand out. But there were a handful. There were truly a handful of other prospects that really have been sticking out, and it was like Kapanen today potted two beautiful goals. His positioning on the ice, his reading of the play was fantastic. So going back to what you're saying, Sammy, like my genuine excitement right now is coming via the risk that Christian Dvorak and Jake Evans are staring dead on in the face, because it's any day now that guys like Jake Evans, that Owen Beck and that potentially Oliver Kapanen are going to come and scoop up. Are they both going to be centermen? Who knows? I'm not going to commit to that, but I'm just saying there are two, we're heading into the exhibition games. If certain guys don't perform, I just hope that the organization, once again, when we sent Armia down last year, that wasn't an easy call. That wasn't a traditional Habs move. We always favored the vets. I'm just hoping that if these rookies come in and they surprise, I just hope that there's a spot for them.
I totally agree. And I'm going to say this right now, and I want to talk about this. Out of all the rookies there, am I saying this is a guarantee? No, but I'm willing to bet maybe every dollar I have in my bank account. Probably not.
I know where he's going with this, but
you totally know where this is going. But I cannot see Lane Hutson getting cut after this training camp.
No,
I truly believe Lane Hutson is going to be amongst the starting roster on October 9th against the Toronto Maple Leafs home opener. We're going to see him start the season with the Canadiens. This is his training camp to lose at this very moment. At least, if not amongst all of the rookies or the prospects, definitely on defense. This is his training camp to lose. And Chris, we were at the second game Sunday at the rookie camp versus the Leafs.
Are you talking about that pass? You're talking about that pass that he made?
Oh, dude, there's so many.
How many passes?
I'm getting
so many plays that.
I'm getting excited just talking about this kid, but go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No problem at all. That pass was amazing. But then, listen, we have to mention Logan Mailloux in the mix too. That Mailloux snipe practically at the goal line. I don't know how the hell he roofed it, but he did. I don't know how he found the space above the goalie's shoulder, but he did. But just Lane Hutson, that day, because it was an afternoon game, like this is the thing. A lot of people are like, yeah, okay, Lane Hutson is doing what he's supposed to do, but against 20-year-olds and 19-year-olds, it's like, bro, did you forget that he did this in college for 2 years as a freshman and as a sophomore? Like, against NCAA hockey players who, even if they're not drafted, whatever, they're still very good hockey players, and he's against men that are 21, 22, 23, sometimes even 24 that are big, and he's not the biggest guy on the ice, and he was able to do what he did and how he did it. Like, I'm not worried about this kid. I'm really, really not. He got bigger and probably a bit stronger since his college days. Just his last 2 games in the NHL against a very desperate fighting Detroit Red Wings team, for 2 games in a row, he did what he did.
He was better than most. Did you see what Bouillard said about him? He's like, he doesn't want Hutson to change his game too much.
No,
There you
don't.
go.
That's a big statement.
That's a huge statement too. Again, the pass that I was referring to, I think it was on the first goal, was the secondary assist. The way he kind of just stopped and then opened up and just
great space.
They pass.
Amazing.
I was like, this is like, they're basically, I think the comparable right now is close to like Cale Makar, and there's some people that are saying he's close to like a Nick Lindstrom type of defenseman.
Jesus,
so
wow.
I would see a Quentin Hughes.
Quinn Hughes, yeah, maybe.
Quinn Hughes.
Quinn Hughes has definitely been the other comparable, but no, I think
how many points did he get last year? 90 something points.
Yeah, just insane. So, but you're like Sal, you're absolutely right, man. Like Lane Hutson it's his training camp to lose. I don't see him not on the roster. The other sort of question marks probably around, Reinbacher. Is he really ready? Does he stick around? Is he playing the AHL? You need big guys, Gooley, Jackeye, they'll probably be on the team. That's why I love that Line trade, because it's like we had so many defensive assets. It's like, Jordan Harris, like no disrespect, great player. He's gonna have a great career.
Mm-hmm.
There's no space. It's just the business of hockey. But you're absolutely like, there's no question in my mind that Hutson is on the starting roster come October 9th for sure.
Just to like round up on Lane Hutson, you said something, Zook. I want to know if you guys had heard this too. The players, so the actual Habs players, the roster players, were there a handful of weeks in advance, and they have been, doing some training on the ice with them. They said they've been saying, I'm not sure if it was the Spinning Chicklets podcast. No, it was Elliot Friedman. I think 32 Thoughts.
Yeah, 32 Thoughts.
Yeah, that he openly said that the players, one of the Montreal Canadiens players, texted him. So texted Elliot Friedman to say, no, the guys are freaking out because they're saying, no, this kid is the real deal. Like, this kid is going to... When you have the actual players on a team talking about a 20-year-old, it's insane. And especially in that regard, talking about a 20-year-old as though he's going to come in and he's going to make a huge statement. I think, Sammy, you were saying it's his camp to lose. I'm not stressed about that. I'm not willing to bet whether or not he's going to make the team. I'm going to start counting the games as to how long he's going to be, how long it's going to take him before he's running the first wave of the power play. That's where I'm feeling. Like, that's what I'm feeling about Lane Hutson. That's how confident.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think they also texted Elliot Friedman saying that don't be surprised if he wins the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year. Again, I look, the season hasn't started yet, and we do have an act of not over buzzing, but buzzing nonetheless about our prospects, and rightfully so. I mean, especially this kid. I do think there is potential for him to be a Calder Trophy candidate. Hopefully, is he going to win it? I don't know. Maybe I think maybe Macklin Celebrini, first overall pick. I don't be surprised if he wins it. Again, a lot depends on what happens in San Jose, but them two, they're in a rebuild, and I kind of like who they have. They're going to have Will Smith in the lineup too, and so, anyways, all that to say is, I don't see any other defenseman that sort of threatens his spot on the left side. And like Dan mentioned, I think part of the reason why the Canadiens traded Jordan Harris was not only to get Patrick Laine and go get some scoring power. I think they knew that, no, we need to make room for this guy. Like Jaden Struble, but imagine both of them are super close buddies. I think Jaden Struble kind of beat out Jordan Harris because of Struble's physicality and what he could bring as like either a fifth, sixth, or hey, you never know. Maybe he might even be a seventh defenseman coming in this season too. There's lots of talks that between him and Justin Barron. Justin Barron's got to clear waivers if he gets sent down. Do they send Jaden Struble down? So that question's still up in the air. But I don't see Lane Hutson benefiting by going down in the minors. You keep him on the team. Pair him up with a David Savard, a veteran that he could learn from and mentor from. We saw him playing with Mailloux, and it was challenging for them because they're both offensive-minded defensemen. So when you have two of them on the line, I'm pretty sure that was a test by the coaching staff. Let's put these two offensive defensemen together and see how they play on the defensive end. And both of them, I thought, did a pretty decent job. They got caught in their zone a few times and ended up getting scored on. But if you put Lane Hutson with a defenseman like David Savard, he can focus on his craft, which is provide some offense, and he's gonna double back on the back check like we've seen many times. And like Rob Ramage, the head of Habs development team, like he said, he's like, just when he loses the puck, like he's gonna double back, and there's a good chance he could recover it as well. Like this is what you want. This is maybe the spark they need to be better on the power play as well, not just with Patrick Laine, but having Lane Hutson in this lineup too.
I just see that there's so much upside with this kid. It's actually insane. Like it's been the most talked about prospect, I think, for the last 2 years. And just the way he skates, the way he moves the puck, the way he's agile too, and he's able to make those crisp passes like tape to tape. Like, you know, Zook, I think you're right, man. Like, or sorry, it was Chris. I think it was you that said this, but the power play is probably, you know, where does he fit in? And I could just see him probably being paired with Mikey Matheson, just feeding it to each other, back and forth, which would be so nasty.
Dude,
just
imagine overtime, 3-on-3 with this bugger.
Oh, he's you know what? Who said it best? I think it was Eric Engels on Tony Marinaro's podcast, on the Sick podcast. He goes, listen, he's gonna make elite plays, and he might make those elite giveaways. It's part of the risk that comes with his game. But thank God we have somebody like Francis Bouillon, who's like, and even Stéphane Roby that won't prohibit him from using his talents. Like, no disrespect to the other previous coaching staff, but like, you know, listen, Dan, you said this is the defenseman or prospect that we've been so excited about since Caulfield, maybe. But on defense, I think the last time we were excited about someone was PK Subban, and we're going way back, at least in my opinion.
It was like 2009, 2010.
Exactly when he won. When he looked amazing for Team Canada during those World Juniors with Jordan Eberle and Tavares, I believe. So it's been a long time coming, at least on as far as defense is concerned. Having said that, there's one player I want to mention on defense who I truly believe is going to be a last cut or one of the last cuts. I really like Logan Mailloux.
Okay.
But I think he's just yes. I think he's going to get cut, but I don't see him taking that much longer to come back to the team, especially if there's an injury.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Now this is a different scenario, and I'm starting to sound like Anthony here. If we didn't have a Justin Barron in the team, would Logan Mailloux make the team?
I'm going to say yes.
I think so.
Yeah. And that fact pisses me off.
Well,
there's somebody taking the spot from the future, start to be defenseman. And I don't think Justin Barron is going to be better than Logan Mailloux. In my opinion.
Maybe there's a trade before the season.
Well,
starts.
there you go. That's what I was thinking all summer, but we haven't seen anything.
Except for lining.
Yeah.
Do you think though? Like, listen, but let's ask this question too. If Mailloux, and it's obvious that he's outperforming Justin Barron, does Habs management, do they bite the bullet and say,
do they risk it? Waivers for not?
Do they risk it, or do they send Jaden Struble down because he doesn't have to clear waivers? And then what do? You rotate between.
Honestly, Mailloux could play Struble's role because Struble is more of like a body presence, and Mailloux has that, but he could also score goals.
Dude, I think if anything, he could play Barron's role with a lot more physicality than Struble.
For that, but like you said, I don't think Kent Hughes is going to risk losing a player for nothing.
I agree with that, especially at that age.
We're entering another situation. Primo, Allen, and Montembeault.
Yeah, kinda. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier to manage, I find, especially coming from a from a coach's point of view, like that's another thing, the documentary that could be looked at as a bit of a disastrous situation that unfortunately had no choice but to have a 3 goalie system. But no, literally now, this problem went from goaltender to
defense.
Yeah. And I guess in a sense, but I really do believe compared to the 3 goalie system, I do believe this is a much better problem to have because it just shows your depth on defense is
I think it's also good. Like if guys get hurt, God forbid. I mean, you have that flexibility. I mean, it's a very easy call up. Logan May will be a top call up. There's no doubt about that, right?
1,000%.
Justin Barron, top call up. Like they have like some flexibility there. With goaltending, it's very limited because it's goaltending. But with this, there's more flexibility here, and they can rotate guys in. Like we're going to see all of them play this year, regular season.
You think?
Games. That's for sure. I think Logan Mailloux is going to get some ice time. Now the question is, okay, if Mailloux, for example, goes out in this preseason, puts up 4 goals. And the other guys are silent. Well, what do you do? Okay, you give him the 10 games or you give him 9 games and then you see what that's like, see how the rotation is. He looked fantastic last year. I think he played like two at the end, Logan Mailloux, if I'm not mistaken. He looked really good.
Played the final game. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, big, and I think he scored in the shootout too, if I'm not mistaken. There was anyway, my memory could be messed up. But anyway, he looked good in that game. He looked fantastic. He's a big body. He's a big presence. The pass is the pass. The kid wants to play. Like, he's going to embrace sort of that culture. And, it's exciting to just see that we haven't had this depth in I don't know how long. Like it's actually
real.
Well, there's another guy that comes up as soon as you're mentioning Logan Mailloux. I don't want fans to start putting pressure on this kid because he doesn't deserve it. I mentioned earlier Owen Beck, Lane Hutson, and Logan Mailloux performed up to standards which were expected to be very good. But David Reinbacher is just another name that could possibly crack the Montreal lineup at a moment during the season. I mean, if we progress and David Savard ends up being a trade closer to the deadline, if Justin Barron's not doing the job, I think there's a situation that we see both of these guys, both Reinbacher and Mailloux. Again, please message PSA to the fans. Please give Reinbacher the time that he needs to develop and let him come up when he's scheduled to come up.
He looked good.
I'm just saying, I think he could. I think he has it in him to come up this year.
When we went, he looked pretty good. And again, he's nothing flashy, very simple. But I was talking with Zook earlier, like this kid's sneaky a little bit too.
You need to be like that.
And I know Lane Hutson on that game made amazing plays and passes. But on Jared Davidson's goal, like along the boards, like he made a nice little sneak.
That pass like that there?
Yeah. Like
that was gorgeous.
The stick was practically like with
Markov.
Yeah, kind of. Honestly, Chris, I do think he's going to have a good camp, kind of like last year, Reinbacher. I still say I don't think he's fully ready yet for the NHL.
I agree.
Agreed. Take the time, kid. Like, please play a full season in Laval. Like, go as far as you can. I think that's the other exciting thing that we're not even talking about. But Laval is going to be a hell of a team this year. They have no excuse. They have a better coach. I am 100% confident in saying they have a much better coach. I think they're going to be a lot more prepped to, start approaching the game in the manner that NHL players are going to be any NHL players are used to doing with Pascal Vincent. And then it's time. Like I rather have Reinbacher down in the minors playing on the first pairing, playing 30 minutes a night and going on a hopefully long playoff run.
I really hope they go for a playoff run because, man, towards the end of last season, the guys were just gassed and they gave it their all, but just. It's also the funny thing is like I started noticing a big drop amongst the Laval Rocket as soon as Arbor Jackeye got called back up to the Canadiens. That's when they really started going downhill. I don't know if that's a coincidence or such. That's just the kind of defenseman and type of player that you want on your team all the time. Is it? I don't know. But for Reinbacher, Chris, playing is playing 30 minutes a night a bit much, but like I want him to see top pairing minutes, like you said, and if that includes playing between 20 and 25 minutes a night,
get there,
minutes, penalty kill, and obviously consistent 5-on-5 minutes, I truly think that's going to be excellent for his development. That's what I see.
Reinbacher too. I think he played 2 years in the Swiss Pro League for like, you know,
it
he
was
got
a disaster with Cloten.
good numbers. I mean, it wasn't too like great, but you know, you guys are absolutely right. Get him to play a full season in the AHL. That's the next best level to the show. Like, get those minutes, build up that confidence. And I think, like you said earlier, Sal, is just like the AHL, the teams that win the Calder Cup, there's usually a pretty good correlation of like that team potentially moving forward as the NHL unit, and then eventually they go on those deep playoff runs. I mean, we saw with the Hershey Bears,
dude, all
Carey
the time.
Price too, and he won the Calder Cup, right? Like the Habs were good for a very long time during that stretch. I mean, and here we are. But it's just, you give them some time. Give them some time.
Totally agree. It's going to be exciting. You know, like all the prospects that we saw at that rookie camp tournament, whatever you want to call it, like the ones we were paying attention to and hoping they perform well, they did something. Florian Jacki delivered the hits and got a fight. Luke Tuck, another big kid, fucking throwing the body out. Tyler Thorpe gonna go back to the WHL. Everybody keep an eye on this kid because he's
man. I was pleasantly surprised with that kid. He's
a diamond in the rough at 5, like at 6'5". Like
you want to know what the strange comparison? And I know we always crap on his contract, but it's a Brendan Gallagher comparison. It's a 5th round pick playing for the Vancouver Giants. Correct me if I'm wrong. Could be a complete. There are some comparables. Tyler Thorpe.
Somebody on Twitter said that.
Apart from the size, there, Chris.
Well, dude, just stack 2 Gallaghers together.
Exactly.
Switch the 5'6" with 6'5".
But
there you go.
I love what he showed, and perfect. Send him back to the junior, let him dominate, and then we might see him get signed at the end of this season because I think he turns 20 years old by the end of the year. But I know we were talking about the defensive group. I kind of want to jump now to the forwards group. There's one forward I think this is his camp to lose, especially now with the injuries to Raphael Harvey-Pinard. I really think Joshua Roy now has a much better chance of making the team out of camp.
But he needs to have a good camp. He can't just be coasting
that's very true. Oliver Kapanen, Chris, you mentioned him earlier. Like I think this kid really wants to make the team this year, and he's gonna force something. Now it's too bad that if he doesn't make the team, he's not gonna go to Laval. He's gonna go back to Europe. He's gonna go back to Europe. Yeah, I forgot if it's the Finnish league or the Swedish league. I'm pretty sure it's the Finnish league. But anyways, he's gonna go back to Europe. So in a sense, it's a bit too bad that we can't see him in Laval. But I think he's trying to make a statement, especially after the scrimmage games that happened earlier today.
I don't think he's trying. I think he's genuinely making the statement. Like, I really, really, really liked what I saw. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't watching everything live, but just the highlights alone, fantastic vision. Like, absolutely fantastic vision of the play.
Good skater too.
We just did our top 10 prospects not long ago. Snuck him in. I think Zook and I snuck him in at like number 9. But I always said dark horse prospect that we have. Like, it's very clear the top end prospects that we have. But I think Oliver Kapanen can be a genuine surprise and fantastic addition for the team. And if he's not playing at center, I also think that he can be a very nice complement on the wings. You have to keep in, like, really, I'm mentioning it more and more and more. I don't think we're building for prospects. We might not even need to have another trade like Patrick Laine. It's now the duty of Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton to find ways to clear cap and get rid of the salaries or the players that are not going to be part of the long-term plan. And who are those guys? Christian Dvorak, Yoel Armia. Sadly, because of his contract, Brendan Gallagher. It's not the same player either.
He's got
in all honesty. Also. And arguably Jake Evans, just because of the profile of players that we have up and coming. So those, again, if there's a gutsy move that's made even before the beginning of the season, don't count out the possibility that I think it's highly, highly, highly unlikely. But, just ballpark figure, 5% chance that a guy like Yoel Armia has to get traded because an Oliver Kapanen has such a great camp.
I want to talk real quickly, just building on that too. Like, look at how Vegas won the cup, right? Their entire forward base was huge power forward, elite sniper, and a playmaker. That is the model right now. And so Gallagher, like, I hate to say this, like you said, Chris, it is the contract, right? He's been a lifelong Hab. Sal, I think he'll probably end up move his no trade clause.
Yeah,
he's at that age. He's at that age right now, and I hope I'm wrong, because like he could have another fantastic season. But is he going to be the top 6 guy? No, he's probably going to be a third line player this year, maybe second power play. And it's a very controversial take because everyone's like, Brendan Gallagher has been the heart and soul of this team. Absolutely. But you run into this situation. How old is he? I think he's 32 now.
He's 30.
He wants to win.
32, 33. Yeah.
Yeah. He really wants to win a cup, right? I think his contract right now, he's sitting at 6.5. Like that's going to play into the negotiation. Like, if these younger guys come in and start pushing the envelope, it might not happen this year, but if they really start hammering away and they start putting up points and people take notice, and Josh Roy plays exceptionally well. I will love watching him play. He's a fantastic skater. I think Gallagher could be a tradable asset. It's a shitty thing to say, but it's just the nature of the sport and just sort of how I think you have to build your team ultimately.
Yeah, 1,000%. Joey would love you right now. If Joey was on the podcast right now, this episode, he'd love you.
You know what, Dan, before we go forward, like Dan, you were saying you had played some hockey, you had played at a relatively high level. You are the first person, other than myself, who thinks that Joshua Roy is a great skater. Everybody criticizes this guy's skating. I find him to be an outstanding skater. Are we going crazy, or is there reason to question? Like,
I just think as a skater, you have to see everybody that's on a 4th or 3rd line is still really fucking good. Like, they're in this league for a reason. So the way it's all speed, right? Like, the higher level you go in hockey, it's all speed. It's just a faster game. You have to be agile. You have to be quick. So he's a fantastic skater for a bottom 6. That's what I mean by that.
You know what it is, Chris? It's because even me, I'm looking at him like, is he really that good of a skater? He is, but like, it's just the way he looks, his skating looks, it looks lazy, but he's not. Like,
he's got the Yoel Armia syndrome where he doesn't look like he's skating. But especially in the World Juniors, when he was playing with Connor Bedard, his strides were outstanding. I thought he was one of the fastest players in all of the juniors in that tournament, and that's why I'm happy you say that, because it's just, I find it mind-boggling that people are like, "Hey, he's a slow skater." I'm like, the fuck game are you guys watching, or what am I watching? Is there a problem with me, or is there a problem with everybody else?
Hey, people forget that he led that 2-on-1 that got the gold medal winning goal, the game winning goal for the gold medal. Like, he was 100%. On that 2-on-1. It was all him. It was all him. So I see what you mean, Chris. It is weird.
I appreciate Dan's comment. That's all I have to say. Like, I really wanted to circle back to that and say thank you for pointing that out, because I thought I've been going crazy for the better part of the last 2 years.
I just wonder though, like, if he does make this team and you put him out on 3rd line, do you put him with Dvorak and Anderson? Are those the guys you want to pair him up with?
I didn't think so.
I mean, I don't see him playing on a 4th line. I think a 4th line of Jake Evans, Armia, and maybe Gallagher. It's going to depend where Gallagher and Anderson go.
Does Anderson get traded? I don't know what the speculation was, but apparently there's a rumor circulating that Columbus is interested in him. So
well, that's probably going to be towards the end of the season, or trade deadline. I mean,
trade deadline probably.
Maybe I saw somewhere on Twitter, and I'm more than certain it's fake, but apparently Seattle might be interested in Mike Matheson, and the return could be Shane Wright. So I saw that made me
would be freaking funny, dude.
That would be hilarious, actually, if Mike Matheson were to go to Seattle and in comes Shane Wright. Like, is Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon going to give him like the stare down that he did on the stage at the draft? Like, I don't know, but
there's so much speculation here. It's like, this is all penny stock discussions. Like, it's awesome.
You know, feel like Jordan Belfort discussing how to get penny stocks out there. One of my favorite movies of all time. I'm just putting that out there. Wolf of Wall Street. So, yeah, no, I really do think Joshua Roy playing with Sean Monahan definitely benefited him. Like, I can't think of a better centerman veteran to play with, even though it was a bit short lived in a sense. At least he got to play with him. He got some experience. Christian Dvorak, no disrespect to him, he's not Sean Monahan, but I still think he might be able to learn a thing or two from Dvorak, pending health for Dvorak. He hasn't had the healthiest of seasons with the Canadiens, but I see him being on that third line. And again, amongst the forward groups, it depends. Oliver Kapanen, man. Anything could happen. I still think Owen Beck is going to be one of the last cuts amongst the forwards, and him too. Same thing like Reinbacher. Go to Laval, get top 6 minutes, get some power play minutes. I think Owen Beck is even going to get some penalty kill minutes as well because he's such a 200-foot centerman. Like him too, when we went Sunday to watch the game, he looked great. Like he was all over the ice in the defensive zone and made a nice sick deke move in the offensive zone and almost created a scoring opportunity. Like I really think Owen Beck this year, go to the minors, and him too, pending an injury at the center position, I think he's going to get called up.
At some point, it's just you got to look at it and you got to look at the cap. I think the cap's at 86 million right now. So there's a little bit. Is that adjusted for inflation? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Deneau leaving was a huge hole. There's no doubt about that. But you know, he is owed that money. Like what did he get? 6.5 million for LA. That is a defensive centerman.
Never.
PK. The talk of the town for Deneau is like, this is the best PK centerman probably in the league. He just doesn't get enough credit. You got to pay him with his words. So Owen Beck might fit that bill. It's going to take time. You got to let him play. Go to Laval, play the full season, be a number 1 or number 2 call up, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think I could see him being that second line centerman after Gignac, because I know Gignac is a centerman in Laval, and they're probably going to give him the top line role in the minors. And I think Owen Beck could follow right after on the second line. Yeah. And then because I'm not so sure much of the other veterans that Laval signed to minor league contracts, but I think that could be great for Owen Beck's development. And even though I don't see him having a second line, or I could see him having at the most maybe a third line role on the Canadiens. A lot of it's going to depend on how Michael H plays in college, but that we got another 2 years to worry about. But him too, I think, just needs a bit more seasoning in the minors. It's his first year pro, so is the NHL ready? I'm not so sure yet, but he's definitely at the point where, apparently Rob Ramage said, this kid, all he did this summer was just train, and just focus on coming into training camp. So he's one kid, at least amongst the forwards. I know we spoke about Joshua Roy. I can't wait to see this kid playing the exhibition games. I really am. So the last segment I want to talk about, we were talking about stocks, Dan and Chris. We're going to go back to the potential trades that we might see this year leading up towards the trade deadline. And I know it's still super early. The season didn't even start yet. But if we look a bit at the track record, how Kent Hughes has been doing business since he became GM leading up to the trade deadline, I think it's safe to assume that he's going to try to move those final contracts come trade deadline. So my question to you, Dan, is which of these players entering their final year of their contracts, both either forward or defenseman, do you think has the highest stock? So I know there's Jake Evans, there's Yoel Armia, there's Christian Dvorak, and there's even David Savard on defense. So far, I don't know if there's anybody else, but out of those 4, who do you think has the highest stock value? And do you really think that player has the highest chance of getting traded?
I mean, this is pure speculation. This is what I do on a day-to-day basis, trying to look at stock charts here. But I think it'll depend where we are at in January to kind of assess, okay, where are we relative to the Atlantic Division, which is the most insane division in hockey. Florida Panthers, like, I mean, it's just it's crazy. That's gonna be a different team, by the way. The thing with Dvorak, I mean, if Dvorak can have a hot streak and really just be like consistent, because we haven't really seen that from him. You know, it was the same thing with Monahan before he got traded. Monahan got hot at the right time.
Yeah,
and his stock value rose, and they were just like, all right, we got a good opportunity here. Let's trade him. What did we get for him? Like a couple of picks and a player. I don't remember the trade, but I just remember
another first rounder.
Yeah. So that was a solid trade because, you know, his stock, and I think Monahan is a great player, right? So if Dvorak can do that, he's probably tradable. He's kind of like that expendable asset. I hate to say this too. I know he's got 2 years left. Josh Anderson might be gone. Maybe, you know, I was there last year in Seattle when we played December 5th, I believe. He scored his first goal of the season. I was like jumping up and down. I was like, thank God, monkey off the back. Let's go. And then he went on this like little streak here. It was just crazy. Savard is an interesting one because he's got a cup, big leadership presence. They love him in the room. He's kind of like the big brother, the father of like Decor, the boys. Yep. So it could be, but I think if anything, like if Dvorak can get hot, put up some decent numbers, get a streak going, you could probably get some good value for him probably midway through the season.
I think Savard can fetch if Tanev could fetch Calgary a first round pick from Dallas. I think Savard can as well. I really think it's going to be some team. I'm again, pure speculation, obviously, but all the points you mentioned, cup winner, leadership skills, you know, a good role model too, guy with experience. You know what I mean? I think he's going to go to a team that just needs that number 5 or number 6 defenseman, but that could still do a solid job on the penalty kill. For me, out of all those guys, I think David Savard is the one that most likely is going to be traded. I think with Christian Dvorak, the thing we got to remember is he has a modified no trade clause of, I think, 8 teams on his list. I know some have 8, some have 10. I'm pretty sure he has 8. And I think if Yoel Armia has a bit of if he plays exactly the way he played towards the second half of the season, towards the end of the season, I think a team might be interested in him as well.
The line A connection, though, there's a Finnish connection, so that could be some chemistry. Even though they're both, you know, left and right wing, they can play both sides, so that could be interesting. Chris, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, not at all. I hadn't even started, but on that note, I really liked what you had to say, Dan, and I see all these trades in a different context. Savard is the guy that they don't want to trade away, but it might be too, like, the return is just going to be too good to hang on to him. Dvorak is going to definitely be that guy that pray to God that he can excel in that shutdown role on the third line, because we all know how much those guys are worth leading into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But the like, if you're straying away from the trade deadline, honest to God, I think if Josh Anderson comes flying, I think management is at the point of almost taking what they can get for him, because we'll be able to get that contract off the books. What is it, 2-3 years early?
There's 3 years left, including this one.
3 years. So it's the same thing as Brendan Gallagher. It's just the contract that really, really hurts because of the term.
5.5.
Yeah,
but I mean, I love Josh Anderson. I thought he was a key player in the playoffs. It all depends. If he shows up and he's playing outstanding hockey, I'm not opposed. I'm not going to be the first one to say, hey, he has to go. Like, I genuinely appreciate the guy and see his value for the team heading into a playoff type of situation. I just don't know if the Canadiens could take the chance and roll the dice on him being that player for the next 3 years. And that's why I say, if this guy goes on a hot streak for the first quarter of the season, I think he might be one of these mid-season trades that just kind of shocks us out of the blue.
I think that term though is going to hurt. I don't know if GMs are going to want to take that contract unless they retain 50%. Unless Hughes decides to retain, and don't forget, there's already 2 contracts that he's retaining. They got 1 year left, and you can only retain 3. He's retaining that of Jake Allen and Joel Edmondson, I believe. Those are already 2 contracts there that they're retaining for 1 final year. Is he willing to do that? Maybe. If the return has to be right for him to do that, but I just don't think. I just don't think with another 2 years remaining. Maybe if the cap keeps going up, maybe it's a possibility. Anything's possible.
His contract is not that bad. He's 5.5, 5.7 million per year. It's really not that bad. But we might see the infamous player that we don't know too much about, but he keeps getting brought up. That Mr. Future Considerations.
Yeah, he's got 5.5. Yeah. So
I could see Josh Anderson being a kind of a trade for future considerations. In all honesty,
maybe it depends. And again, it's got to be one of those moves that makes this team better. Like Hughes is not going to make a move just to make a move. So I personally, I don't know what other GM would be willing to give that up. And again, if Josh Anderson is on a tear, and a lot of depends. This I just hit me. It depends too. Like if the Canadiens are in the mix. What do you think the plan's going to be? Does Hughes deviate from whatever plan he has? Like we all hear that he's sticking to the plan, like he's not changing anything. But if he's in the mix, like does one or two things change?
I think in 5 words or less, you keep a guy like Josh Anderson. Okay. In that case.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think after maybe 30 games, you get a sense as to where the team is at, right? Are we in the mix? Are we competing for a playoff spot? Can we get another asset? Because quite frankly, when Ivan Demidov got drafted, I was like, I've never screamed at a draft, but I got up and I was like, as if we scored like a Stanley Cup playoff goal.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because when he got drafted and he slipped to 5, we just accelerated the plan, I think, by about 2 years. So depending on how we start this season, and I don't want to get the expectations too high. I don't want to say, hey, guys, we're going to be like a 4th wild card seed. But the Habs, historically, we've always had like that one season where we just go off on a burst. We win a bunch of games. Hopefully we don't end up like the Philadelphia Flyers last year where they were like, in the 3rd seed. They just imploded with like 15 games left. And that was the end of that.
They couldn't win a game.
Yeah, they just couldn't do it, even with Torts doing his thing behind the bench, right? So let's put some over under here. If the Habs are at, let's say, at 30 games, if we win 55% of those games, you have to start having that conversation. If we're at 65% of those games, okay, there's something going on here. Like what's happening? I mean, we'll know when the season happens, like what's working, what's not working. Could be the top 6 just putting, biscuits behind the net. But, if we're at 50% of the wins at the 30-game mark, keep the plan. Like business as usual. Don't need to force anything. You don't got to make a deal to make it happen. Just keep fans excited and let this season play out. I think next year is when you have to start making that push.
Yeah, I think so. And I kind of feel the same way. I don't think if they are in the mix and there's a good chance they could make playoffs, I don't think Hughes is going to be either a buyer or a seller. I think he's going to maybe just keep things the way they are. And again, for him to trade, Chris mentioned it, the offer has to be like an offer he can't refuse, basically. I don't want to quote Godfather here, but it's got to be one of those trades. Like, I don't think Hughes is going to go out and look for that last element because we know the Demidov explanation was pretty much perfect, and we feel the same way. We mentioned that quite a few times on this podcast ever since he got drafted. So I'm excited. I mean, it's exciting times. Fans are excited again, and I think for the first time in a long time, majority of smart fans, they seem to manage their expectations, but I get the excitement sometimes takes over, especially with Lane Hutson coming in now. in his first full NHL season. I'm saying it right now. It's going to be his first full NHL season. It's fun times. It's always
Calder Trophy.
Yeah, the Calder Trophy winner. It's always exciting times, man. So September is always an exciting month for Habs fans and hockey fans. Before we call it quits, though, boys, Chris, you wanted to ask that, like even me, Dan, I want your take on this. What are your thoughts of Jacob Fowler, and would you have done that trade to Nashville for Askarov?
Probably not.
I'm putting you on the spot.
So, yeah, that was a pure speculation, though, I think, at the time. Like, people were saying, he's going to come here. Askarov, right?
However you pronounce his name, but apparently sources were saying that Nashville also wanted Jacob Fowler as a return. I forgot who was getting the first round pick. I don't know if I think Montreal was going to give a pick, but I think Nashville was also asking for Fowler. To the best of my memory.
Not going to happen, buddy.
All I know is that Askarov got what he wanted, and they sent him to probably the worst team in the league. But
I know.
He'll be a starter. He'll get probably 60% of the games, or 70% of the games. Young goaltender. I watched him in the World Juniors. He's unreal. Kind of like he's like a hybrid between Vasilevsky and Evgeny Nabokov, because Nabokov was always tighter with the.
I used to like Nabokov back in the day,
with his stats. But no, guys, like Jacob Fowler is. I don't want to jump the gun because he's still technically on our depth chart, but the excitement is real. Like, he won goaltender of the year in his first year in NCAA. You don't just do that when you're when you're what was he like 18 or 17 perhaps?
I think it was 18. Yeah.
And he played on the World Juniors too. The way he moves, the way he tracks the puck. I'm a goalie. Like I'm obsessed with like movements. When I was at Game 7 in Florida watching Bob and warm up, I'm like, this guy's a freak, dude. Like it's all technical. Jacob Fowler's the same way, and that's the same way Carey Price just approached his game, except he had such a calmer demeanor. So, I know we didn't talk about goalie depth chart real quickly, but Monty's got 3 years on that deal. They'll probably move him in his last year. Make room for Jacob Fowler. Give Primo the backup. I don't know what's going to happen in Laval for. I think it's Jacob Douglas and Connor Hughes is the other one. But Jacob Fowler is going to be really our goaltender of the future. I think this is like this is going to be a decade type of player. If he can stay healthy, put up some great numbers, like this kid is absolutely sick, and I'm excited for it. He's not going to play this year, but we'll see.
Oh, I think he's going to go all the way up to the Frozen Four again. I think him losing that final game, I think he wants to avenge himself and the team to get it. And because of that, I don't think we're going to see him this year. But no matter what happens, I truly believe we will see Jacob Fowler get signed by the Canadiens when his NCAA season is completely over and done. And I've said this before on other episodes. I'll say this again. He's got that Patrick Waugh mindset. And I'm not saying he's the next Patrick Waugh, especially for the Montreal Canadiens. I'm saying that level of compete, that fierce competitive nature that he has, that you're not going to fucking score on me attitude. I love that. And that's what I wanted my goaltender. And that's why Scout Billy for the Canadiens was fighting for him. We all saw it in that documentary for the 2023 draft. That's one of the reasons why he wanted him. I want to pick the kid that wants to win the most.
So Askarov, go enjoy San Jose. Go enjoy Northern California. we're okay over here.
Is it safe to say, Dan, that Florida is probably your second favorite team?
Unfortunately, yes. But no, I'm obviously kidding. I have a good friend who lives down in Palm Beach County, who's a massive Florida Panthers fan. Spent a lot of time down there. It was a fun team to cheer for, and then we saw what happened this year. Like it was just like that was the team. Like Game 7. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Like, and by the way, I know this is a Habs podcast, but I was high-fiving a lot of Oilers fans while down. I'm like, you guys are going to win next year. Like, you can't.
You think?
I think Edmonton. Like, it's so tough. Like, it's so early now. Like, things could happen. But like, dude, if the Oilers are in the Cup final again this year, is anyone going to be surprised?
No.
Nope. It's been a common trend where like teams that have been losing in the Cup Finals are winning the following year. So like
as long as Corey Perry's not on that,
as
long as Corey Perry's not on that team, we're good, right?
Jesus Christ! But for you to, even if he doesn't
great
win,
player.
For the rest
I
of
love that guy, by the way. He's a great.
Oh no,
player.
but like the fact that you've been to 5 Stanley Cup Finals in your career, it still says something. Even if you didn't win them, we don't go as crazy as NBA fans and NFL fans that like, oh, 5-time finalist, he only won one, so he's a chump. Like he's crap. Like it's like no, like hockey is different. It's not, you're not measured by how many cups you win in the NHL. Like so, yeah, you get along with Anthony because he loves going to Florida all the time too. And I need to ask you, who's your favorite NFL team?
They're playing right now. They're getting their ass kicked, the New England Patriots. So
okay, so you'd get along perfectly
Anthony.
with Anthony is there right now as we speak because he's in New York
at the Jets game.
And I think he's watching.
Awesome.
I think he's watching the game live. Yeah. So a shout out to Anthony from one Patriots fan to another. Boys, before we wrap things up, any final words for this episode before we call it an evening? I'm gonna let Dan go watch the game in peace.
You said it all.
Maybe we just unofficially. This is before camp even starts. The penny stock notion that you presented earlier gives me a strong desire to go and just drop like $25-$50 on a bet that the Habs are going to make the playoffs. Like why not? Why not? So I was just about to say, what's your over under Habs making the playoffs at the end of the day, Dan?
Oh, this is tough. What's the over under? So I'm pulling up the odds here. Odds of making the playoffs. Oh, they're plus 600. That's pretty strong. DraftKings has them at plus 750. Oh man.
So $25, you could get some decent.
Yeah, it's 6-1 odds basically, right? So I don't know how to. I want to see the first 10 games because that'll kind of give you a sense as like the chemistry and the lines and stuff like that. If we get the 10 games, like I'd be able to give you a more concrete answer. I think right now, if we're going to purely speculate, over under, I don't know. We'll be fighting for the last wild card spot, but like it'll come down to like 3 teams simultaneously fighting for it. Like we saw last year with the Red Wings. I think it was the Capitals and the Flyers, which again got demolished there. But I don't know. Give me 10 games, and I'll come back to you guys.
We'll make sure. Chris, send me the message, or if you message Dan on some of his social media accounts. Dan, for some of our listeners, where can they follow you? Where are you on social media?
Yeah, no, so I actually have a podcast. It's called New Gen Mindset. Check us out, newgenmindset.com. We talk about investing, what's happening in the world. It's a crazy world right now. And we're really talking about what my partner and I are investing in the markets. But you guys can find me on Instagram, Dan_Kozel93. I'm KOZ93 on Twitter. Again, LinkedIn, if you guys are on that too. And then you can find me here in Montreal, somewhere outside of downtown, 15 minutes northwest.
Yes.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, there you have it, folks. And that wraps up another episode of the Curfew Boys. Thanks to Dan. Thank you so much for joining us. Had a pleasant conversation. We're so excited. Yeah, man. We're just as excited as you are and the rest of this city. So listen, if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. Click like and subscribe. It's absolutely free. Tell your friends about us. Share this with your fellow Habs fans. Audio format on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, I believe, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, The Curfew Boys. You know where to find us. You know where to find Dan as well. Check him out and his podcast as well. Gentlemen, have a good evening. Well, we won't say goodbye like we usually do, but listen, don't forget, first preseason game, Monday night. I'm going to be working Monday night, but I'll be enjoying it with my crew. Can't wait to see that. I think they take on the Flyers.
Flyers.
Let's see two rebuilding teams, and let's see. It's going to be Torts versus Marty all over again. Awesome, wait. Boys. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening. Gentlemen, have a good night. See you next time.
Until next
time. Thanks, boys. See you, everybody.
Bye now, boys.